and today's topic is reflection. What if the world we experience is a reflection of ourselves? And we can actually use our experience as a tool for personal awareness. It should be an interesting conversation. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light, lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together, vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Isabel. How lovely to have you joining us this morning. And welcome to everyone else who's with us. Today, we are talking about reflection and how the world, or our experience of the world, is a reflection of ourselves. That if we're perceiving lots of anger in the world, for example, we might use that as an opportunity to check in and say, well, what am I angry about? What's going on with me with regard to anger, that I'm seeing that in the world, that the world becomes an outpicturing or an expression or our experience of the world becomes an expression of something that is our own experience. If we perceive hostility, fear, anxiety, then we can be using that as an opportunity to look within ourselves to find what's going on. What am I anxious about? What am I fearful about? And we can explore these communications from the seemingly external world as a way, as a path of insight for ourselves. Good morning, Rosalind. So good to have you here with us. Welcome. We're talking about reflection and how the outer world, what we perceive as the outer world, is very much a reflection of our inner state, our inner experiences, and that we can use it or use the awareness of it as a tool for personal transformation. So sometimes we have a bad day, right? Or what we call a bad day. And it seems like there are days when just everything is going wrong. And rather than getting caught up in that and the frustration of it and pushing back against it and trying to push through, that's something that I've seen myself do in the past. Just when encountering obstacles, just sort of trying to push my way through. Although it may be counterintuitive, it can be useful to sort of step back, slow down, and look at what what is the resistance, what is going on in me where I'm conflicted, that I'm creating this experience of of obstacles, obstruction. So we can maybe look at, well, where do I feel that obstruction or that resistance in myself? What's going on for me? So if we can step back, and I guess the key to finding some sort of peace and grace in life is to be able to be present, be really present, and to kind of have a meta view of a bigger picture of what's going on, to not be so attached to the way that things are unfolding, to not be so attached to any particular outcome, to really be as present as possible, which means not being at the effect of our past. So it's an idealized state, and we can approach it with varying degrees, right? We can achieve it to varying degrees, but finding clues to what's going on and how we can maybe self-correct is something that the world, our experience of the world, of the externalities, can reflect back to us, can inform us about. And using that information, we then can perhaps adjust ourselves or gain an insight, find a pathway to greater awareness. So many of us interact with life as if it's all about doing. And this brings us back to our very frequent conversation about being versus doing. When we get in a doing mindset, we often find ourselves really disconnected from the impact of what we're doing, from or the way that we're doing it, from ourselves, from the moment, because we just get into this sort of robotic mindset and ignore everything else to just be creating this force of doing versus being in the state of being present, being whole, and allowing doing to emerge from that being. There's a grace and a flow rather than the sharp and jagged edges of pushing and force. The flow of doing that emerges from being is very, very different, and it's experienced in a very, very different way. That's when we make space for all kinds of synchronicities to occur. We get to be in collaboration and partnership with life itself, that is serving up all these opportunities when we can allow ourselves to be receiving, when we can be open enough to receive. So I had a wonderful, wonderful conversation yesterday with a person who we've been on a really magical journey together. And this person came from deep trauma and very challenged relationship with their mother, particularly, and their father. But particularly their mother. And they are at a place in their lives right now where they were able to look back on their history and recognize that these tortures that they experienced at the hands of their mother actually shaped them, that their mother was very busy carving out this space that allowed them to grow and evolve into the person that they are today, which has prepared them to do really remarkable things in this world. And it was extraordinary to presence with this person the history and the traumas and all these different events through their life that fit together like puzzle pieces to bring them to this very moment and to cultivate competencies in this very moment that are needed in their uh, present and future, their essential purpose to be reshaping social structures on a big scale. And when we look at our lives, so besides the idea of reflection like in a mirror, we're also talking about reflection, like reflecting back on our histories and looking at our lives. And it's fascinating how context changes as we evolve and grow, as we experience more and more of life. So what happened, and actually, I wish I had called today context, maybe tomorrow, but it's fascinating how what had been experienced as very, very painful and traumatic in growing up became the source of the strength and skill and competence and capability that this person experiences as their purpose. And what we discovered in that conversation is that it's that there's been this collaboration all along, collaboration between this woman that was their mother and and her higher soul and this person's higher soul or intention, for how the dynamic unfolded in such a way that it allowed for the unique expression that this person has in the world. And I think that we can look at our lives in that way as we reflect upon our lives. The context changes. So growing up, it was suffering. And as an adult that is becoming more self-realized, there's a new context of recognition and gratitude for the forming of those conditions that brought forth capability. So it is in so many ways, provided that we are able to transcend them. It is in so many ways our traumas or the traumatic experiences of our lives that shape us and hold the seeds of our greatest contribution, I think. We could say of our greatest triumph, we could say of our greatest talents, of our greatest gifts, but of our greatest contribution. Now, the challenge is to be able to get to the other side of those traumas, to be able to metabolize them in a way that they become a catalyst for our growth and our highest expression. It's very possible that we get caught in the perpetuating loop of those traumas and never escape the gravity, so to speak, of them. If we're thinking about like a space launch or whatever, we want to be able to get out of the gravitational pull of that orbit, and potentially we can just keep circling and circling and circling through the trauma, reliving it, re-experiencing it, being at the effect of it, or we get to the point where we've gained enough momentum that we can actually break free of that gravitational force and launch into the greater atmosphere. And so as we reflect on our lives, one of the things that offers a tremendous support is to look at what the opportunities were that these obstacles and oppressions even created for us, and to adopt a lens on our lives that moves from the place of life is happening for me and through me rather than to me. It may sound cliche, but it is a super, super, super powerful place to come from as we experience life. And particularly, well, certainly when we look at our pasts and the traumas of our past, and we get past the point of blaming and shaming and guilt, to come to a place of mining the opportunities that were created, mining the gifts that were part of that, whatever that dynamic was, that dynamic of trauma. It can be transformed. And oftentimes in that transformation, it really gives us our lives. It gives us our sense of meaning and purpose and strength and courage. But in the moment, as we evolve, as we emerge from being the victim, having been victimized, to using that and transforming it, it's like it's transmuting it. It's an alchemy. It's an alchemy of spirit that happens for us as we move closer and closer to our self-realization, our self-expression. And when I say self-realization, I'm talking about the fuller expression of our capacities, capabilities, potentials, essence, that we're moving into this greater self expression, that in any given moment, when confronted by a challenge or an obstacle or a tragedy or any kind of circumstance, that we be present to what's occurring for us, that we process the emotion, and at some point, hopefully sooner than later, but when it feels authentic, to move into what is the opportunity here? What is the opportunity? What is the opportunity for transformation, for greater expression, for learning, for insight, for grace, for growth? And when we use those metrics and those practices, it is a practice, it is a discipline, because it's so easy to get swept away in our emotions and lose ourselves in old patterns. So the emotion can be a catalyst for transformation. It can also be a trigger for a patterned behavior that takes us into a downward spiral. So we have the opportunity at any given moment to choose. We may not be present to that opportunity. We may not have an awareness that that opportunity is available to us because we're so overwrought or overwhelmed. But there are moments when we can come up for a breath of air, and in those moments, we can exercise our ability to choose. Is this what's happening now? What am I choosing in the moment? What am I thinking? What am I creating in the moment? What am I making this mean? And how is that impacting me? And how is that then rippling out and impacting those around me? So when we're talking about reflection, here we're looking at using the reflection of the world around us to be able to reflect upon what's actually happening for us, what the experience is, where our sovereignty is within that experience. In other words, where we have the opportunity and the ability to shift our beingness, and in shifting our beingness, shift the experience and the external manifestation of that experience. So we talk a lot about manifesting, but the foundation of manifesting is being. And it's from our state of being that manifesting moves. And if our being is feeling bereft, what are we manifesting in the world? What we're seeing in the world is things that feed our sadness, most likely, right? And yet there's an open-heartedness in that sadness that can make us more compassionate and present also. So Rosalind says, the white light is always there, containing the entire spectrum of colors. If I'm seeing greens, blue, but want to see red, give red out to the world. Learning self-love, not needing to be validated from external forces. Beautifully said, Rosalind. Beautifully, beautifully said. Yes, we do create our experience. We do create the world that we live in to a very, very great degree. And self-love and self-acceptance shifts our experience of the world. And as you're saying, if you are seeing green and blue and you want to see red, give red to the world. If you want to see love, give love. What we put out is reflected back. What we put out is magnified. And the more that we can be authentically present, authentically compassionate, authentically loving, the more compassion, love, acceptance, all of those things that we receive, the more accepting we can be, the more acceptance we will experience. And if we're not receiving that, then we can look at, well, what's going on? Maybe there's something else going on in here that the world is reflecting back to me that I can use as an opportunity to elevate myself further, to awaken myself more fully. So that's it for this morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you, please, to like and follow the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel and my YouTube channel. The links are in the description. And as always, it is such a tremendous blessing and privilege to spend this time with you and to be musing together about life and what it means to be human. So, with so much love, until next time.